Roger Gray, a former Met police officer who specialised in the use and deployment of firearms, and the chair of the London Race and Criminal Justice Consortium, Lee Jasper. Very good evening to you both. Lee Jasper, clearly those supporting Mr. Duggan very upset tonight. Tell me your thoughts there and what the main concerns are.
I think there's a climate of disbelief in black and ethnic minority communities, those who have a passion for justice. I think that the conclusion is when it comes to black people, the bank of British justice is bankrupt. Nobody understands the verdict. If he was not in possession of a gun, he could have been easily arrested, taken to court, and due process would have its way. The fact that he hasn't been, the fact that there is so many inconsistencies pointed out by Judge Cutler, the coroner himself, in summing up to the jury, inconsistencies in the police evidence, just reinforces the wide community perception that there was something deeply untoward about what happened in relation to Mark Duggan. And the anger that you can see outside that court is replicated throughout very many communities throughout the country who are on the social media, on Twitter, expressing their confusion, their anxiety and outrage, a judgment that looks to be perverse.
Let's bring in Roger Gray there. You've been involved in your career as a police officer in firearms, in the training and specialisation of firearms and so on. Does any policeman ever pick up or is issued with a firearm with the thought that he is going to commit an offence out there, or is he just trying to basically protect the community? What runs through a policeman's mind when he's faced with this sort of situation?
They take this job on the basis that they are there to protect the public at large and to uphold the law. That is what they think. I find it bitterly disappointing that Mr. Jasper plays the race card instantly in this situation. And if there is some repercussion...
I haven't said anything about
I'm sorry, I haven't finished yet. I haven't finished yet. Let me speak. OK? Instantly, it's the black community. This is to do with the law and criminality. We have someone who is identified by intelligence as being a member of a violent East London gang. The intelligence is, and it is supported, that he was carrying a firearm. The intelligence is that he was going out to commit crime. He was challenged by police, and we find ourselves in a situation where the officer's perception was that it was a life-threatening situation involving a firearm, and he reacted correctly. To besmirch this action with racial connotations is, I'm sorry, beyond forgiving.
Mr. Jasper, I mean, clearly, why would a firearms officer go out deliberately to, in the words of many of the supporters of Mr. Duggan, murder him? I mean, is that realistically what you're claiming tonight?
Hold on. Why do police... No, I'm not claiming that at all. What I'm talking about here is the specific culture of institutionalised racism within policing that leads to a disproportionate level of violence being subjected to black suspects. Now, that is clear. It's clear in the Met's own figures in terms of stop and search. It's clear in the Met's figures in terms of tasering. Black men are disproportionately tasered. They're disproportionately injured on arrest. They disproportionately die in police custody as a consequence. So you can see that there is a climate in which overwhelming and disproportionate force is used disproportionately against black men. Now that's the figures of the Home Office, that's the figures of the Met, and we can see it replicated in policing functions right throughout the country. Now what I'm saying is that temptation to view black men as being super criminal, and we just heard it now, he was the member of, and we saw it in the run-up to the coroner's inquest. Mark Duggan is one of the #1 gangsters wanted in Europe. That is absolute rubbish. Frankly, I couldn't care whether Mark Duggan was Al Capone. If he didn't have a gun, he could have been subject to an arrest and then go through due process.
Let's bring in Roger Gray here.
Well, hold on, I haven't finished.
No, you've had a good say, Mr. Jasper. Mr. Gray is going to have a word now.
OK, I mean, now Mr. Jasper has got off of his soapbox. Let's get this absolutely clear. This has got nothing to do with race. Nothing at all. This has got to do...
Never has.
I'm sorry?
He never has.
You are colouring this with your own brush.
anything to
you
do
are colouring
with race.
this with your own brush, and that is
profound
disgraceful.
injustice. Well,
Do
may
you
think
want
so,
a man
but
who exercises violence and uses firearms loose on the street? Answer the question.
I want criminals arrested. I want criminals arrested.
Well, it doesn't sound like it. I think you're using it for your own devices.
Well, I have no
entirely
devices
using your own devices.
Other than the
you are
pursuit
not
of justice.
prepared to listen. You are not being fair. You are not upholding the law. I'm sorry. That's it. It's entirely. That's total.
When it comes to black people and justice in Britain, the law is rarely upheld. So let's not get on our soapboxes as if racism.
Let's not keep doing black people and what goes on in this country.
Exist.
Look.
Why not? Why not? We don't
disassociate
incident. Policing from our overall view and experience of racism in this country. The criminal justice
Jasper,
system
why are we
is
here?
institutional racist. We're here because a young black man has found himself dead at the hands of the police. That's why we're here.
No, we're not. We are here to examine the circumstances of one incident, and you just want to paint it with a very broad brush.
Well, you want to look at
this incident?
You want to look at the black experience in isolation. That's the mistake that you made with Stephen Lawrence. That's the issue you raised when any time institutionalised racism is raised. Let's look at the individual, not the institution. We're disproportionately injured upon arrest. We disproportionately die in police custody. We're disproportionately stopped and searched. And we disproportionately receive unprofessional and violent treatment at the hands of the police.
Right,
now, you
okay.
say
You
that this
address
is not...
those individual items. You address those individual items elsewhere. Don't use this incident as a forum. Talk about this incident. You know, there's no point in having this conversation. You are just simply... No. You're just simply using this for your own devices. And I'm sorry, you have no morality.
This is a denial. This is no morality. This from somebody who's defending the Met Police Service. No morality. That's outrageous. I think the morality.
Maybe I could ask a question. Do you mind? Do you mind me just popping in here to have a word, Mr. Jasper, as you're a guest on the programme that I'm chairing here? Clearly, the point Mr. Gray is making is that if you looked at this case individually, it's the police going after a believed to be a criminal who they have intelligence on, rather than the broader issue. Let's just have a look at that. Do you accept that the police have a right to track down believed criminals after receiving intelligence, particularly if they believe them to have a firearm? Is that not a fair case?
Well, look, let's be clear here, and let me establish my record. I founded Operation Trident. We demanded of the police a response to tackling armed criminality in their gang, long before Roger Grafe and his other officers there who sit in some sort of moral judgment upon our activities even thought about these issues. And we've been campaigning on them since 1996. So I need no lectures either from you or from the officer about the issue of armed criminality in the black community.
Nobody's lecturing you. I was just asking you a question about criminality.
Well, if I can finish. We need no lectures about armed criminality. What this case is about the evidence that was presented to that jury, in which the coroner himself spoke out against the stark inconsistencies in the police evidence. And what people don't understand is how Mark Duggan can be found not to have a gun and yet still be lawfully killed. What that means is, in essence, any officer who reasonably believes somebody has a gun is now lawfully empowered to shoot that person. And I don't think that's the society we want to live in. It's not the kind of policing we want. We want our criminals arrested. We want them taken to court and go through due process. And to try and discount the whole history of police-black community relations and institutional racism as not relating to this case is just simply ludicrous, irrational, and doesn't make sense in terms of black communities nationwide.
Well, it is then ludicrous and irrational that you should put this argument forward in the context of what's gone on here.
That's the black experience.
Let me finish.
You're not a black man. You don't know it.
Let me finish. Okay. A large number of black men are injured with firearms. Is that right or not? Does that situation exist? And are you happy? Are you no? No. Yeah, I'm speaking generally.
I thought you were asking me.
Okay, I'm very sorry, gentlemen, but we are going to have to call time on this one. Roger Gray, Lee Jasper, thank you very much for giving us your views tonight.